August 31, 1997. 12:23 a.m. Paris, France. A Mercedes-Benz S280 enters the Pont d'Alma tunnel at an estimated speed of 105 km per hour. Inside Diana, Princess of Wales, her companion Dodi Fayed, bodyguard Trevor Rees-Jones, and driver Henri Paul. 2 minutes later, the car is a crushed wreck against Pillar 13. 3 of the 4 occupants will not survive the night. This is the minute-by-minute reconstruction of what really happened. Diana Frances Spencer wasn't just a princess. She was the most photographed woman on Earth. After her divorce from Prince Charles in 1996, the media obsession intensified. Every movement, every relationship, every vacation became headline news. By the summer of 1997, her romance with Dodi Fayed, son of Egyptian billionaire Mohammed Al Fayed, had turned her life into a 24-hour surveillance operation. The final day, Saturday, August 30th, 1997. Diana and Dodi spent the day in Paris. After a Mediterranean vacation, they visited the Fayed-owned Ritz Hotel on Place Vendôme. That afternoon, they went to Dodi's apartment on Rue Arsène Housset. Paparazzi followed every move. Motorcycles, cars, cameras pointed through tinted windows. At approximately 7 p.m., they returned to the Ritz for dinner. Outside, the pack of photographers grew. Estimates range from 7 to 9 motorcycles and several cars. Henri Paul, the Ritz's deputy head of security, had finished his shift at 7 p.m. He went home but was called back around 10 p.m. to help with departure plans. What happened during those 3 hours would become crucial. Toxicology reports would later reveal his blood alcohol level was 3 times the legal limit, 1.75 grams per liter. He also had therapeutic levels of antidepressants and traces of thiapride, used to treat alcoholism. Yet multiple witnesses described him as appearing normal, even joking with hotel staff. 10 p.m., the plan changes. The original plan, bodyguards Trevor Rees-Jones and Kes Wingfield would drive Diana and Dodi in the standard security vehicle. But the paparazzi presence made this impossible. A decoy plan was formed. 2 vehicles would leave from the front entrance, empty, drawing photographers away. Meanwhile, Diana and Dodi would slip out the back service entrance in a 3rd car driven by Henri Paul. This decision eliminated the trained protection officers who knew evasive driving procedures. Henri Paul, a security manager, would now be responsible for outrunning professional pursuit drivers. 12:20 a.m., August 31st, the departure. Diana, Dodi, Trevor Rees-Jones, and Henri Paul entered the black Mercedes-Benz S280 through the Ritz's rear exit on Rue Cambon. Rees-Jones sat in the front passenger seat, the only person who buckled his seatbelt. Diana and Dodi sat in the back, unbelted. Within seconds, paparazzi motorcycles identified the vehicle. The Mercedes accelerated onto Rue Cambon, turned onto Place de la Concorde, then onto Cours la Reine. Along the Seine River, speed increased rapidly. Photographers on motorcycles pursued, some reaching speeds of 100 km per hour. The chase was on. 12:22 a.m., the approach. The Mercedes entered Cours Albert I, the road running parallel to the Seine. Speed estimates range from 95 to 105 km per hour, nearly double the 50 km per hour limit. Henri Paul's driving became erratic. At one point, according to witness testimony, the car briefly entered the wrong lane. At 12:23 a.m., the Mercedes approached the Pont d'Alma underpass, a short tunnel with 2 lanes in each direction. The entrance dips slightly downward. Witnesses report at least 2 motorcycles were close behind, possibly 3. One photographer, Romuald Rat, later testified he was approximately 100 meters behind. 12:23 a.m., impact. Inside the tunnel, something went catastrophically wrong. The Mercedes veered left, clipping a white Fiat Uno that was traveling in the right lane. Paint transfers and plastic fragments would later confirm contact. The identity of the Fiat's driver remains one of the investigation's great mysteries. Despite a massive search, the vehicle was never definitively found. After the sideswipe, Henri Paul overcorrected. The car swerved right, spinning slightly, then smashed head-on into the 13th reinforced concrete pillar supporting the tunnel roof. The impact speed, estimated 95 to 110 kilometers per hour. The front of the Mercedes crumpled like an accordion. The physics were brutal. Without seatbelts, Diana and Dodi were thrown forward with tremendous force. Dodi's injuries were catastrophic: chest crushed, multiple fractures, internal organs ruptured. He died almost instantly. Henri Paul suffered a severed spine and massive head trauma. Death was instantaneous. Trevor Rees-Jones, protected by his seatbelt and the passenger airbag, survived, but suffered devastating facial injuries, requiring multiple reconstructive surgeries. He has no memory of the crash. Diana was conscious. Witnesses who reached the car within seconds described her saying, "Oh my God," and "Leave me alone." She appeared to have relatively minor external injuries, a small wound on her forehead, a cut on her shoulder. But internally, the damage was catastrophic. 12:25 a.m., first responders arrive. Photographer Romuald Ratt reached the wreck within 2 minutes, and instead of helping, he photographed. Other paparazzi arrived and continued shooting. This behavior that would spark global outrage. It took approximately 6 minutes before a doctor, Frederick Maylis, who happened to be driving through the tunnel, stopped to render aid. Dr. Maylis examined Diana. She was semi-conscious, struggling to breathe. He applied an oxygen mask and stabilized her neck. He would later state he thought her injuries were survivable at that moment. Police and emergency services arrived around 12:30 a.m. The Paris Fire Brigade's medical team, SAMU, took over. They found Diana in cardiac distress. Her blood pressure was critically low, a sign of severe internal bleeding. 12:40 a.m., the hidden injury. What no one could see, Diana's pulmonary vein had been torn. This tiny vessel, which carries oxygenated blood from the lungs to the heart, had been severed by the violent deceleration. Blood was filling her chest cavity, a condition called hemothorax. Every heartbeat pumped more blood into spaces where it shouldn't be, compressing her lungs and heart. This injury is rare and deadly. Even in a hospital, it requires immediate surgical intervention. On a Paris street at midnight, it was nearly impossible to detect without imaging equipment. 1 a.m., the delay. French emergency protocols differ dramatically from American practices. In the U.S., the philosophy is scoop and run, get the patient to a hospital as fast as possible. In France, medical teams stabilize on scene, bringing hospital-level care to the patient. SAMU spent over an hour treating Diana inside the ambulance before transport. They administered fluids, medications, performed external cardiac massage when her heart stopped briefly. Critics would later question this delay. Could faster transport have saved her? Defenders argue that moving her prematurely might have killed her instantly. 1:41 a.m., transport begins. The ambulance finally departed for Pitié-Salpêtrière Hospital, the closest facility with a trauma unit capable of handling her injuries. The distance, 6 kilometers. The journey should take 10 to 15 minutes. It took 26 minutes. The ambulance stopped multiple times when Diana's condition deteriorated. Her blood pressure crashed twice. Each time, medics stabilized her before continuing. 2:06 a.m. Arrival at hospital. Diana arrived at Pitié-Salpêtrière in full cardiac arrest. A trauma team led by surgeon Alain Pavey was waiting. They performed emergency thoracotomy, opening her chest to access the heart directly. They found the torn pulmonary vein and attempted repair. They manually massaged her heart. They transfused blood. For 2 hours, they fought. 4 a.m. pronounced dead. At 4 a.m., Diana, Princess of Wales, was declared dead. The cause, hemopericardium and hemothorax secondary to a tear in the pulmonary vein. In simpler terms, she bled to death internally from an injury that was nearly impossible to detect and treat under the circumstances. The aftermath and unanswered questions. The French investigation concluded it was an accident caused by Henri Paul's intoxication, excessive speed, and paparazzi pursuit. In 2008, a British inquest reached the same conclusion, adding that the failure to wear seatbelts was a contributing factor. Trevor Rees-Jones, the only survivor, believes seatbelts would have saved both Diana and Dodi. But questions persist. Who was driving the white Fiat Uno? Why was Henri Paul, clearly intoxicated, allowed to drive? Some of his colleagues insist he showed no signs of drunkenness. Could his blood samples have been switched? Independent experts examined this claim. The DNA matched, the alcohol levels were consistent across multiple samples. The evidence is conclusive. Could Diana have been saved? Medical experts disagree. Some argue the torn pulmonary vein was unsurvivable regardless of response time. Others suggest immediate transport to surgery might have given her a chance. The delay remains the most debated aspect. Mohammed Al-Fayed spent years promoting conspiracy theories: MI6 assassination, royal family involvement, orchestrated murder. Multiple investigations found zero evidence. The crash was a tragic accident, a drunk driver. Excessive speed. No seatbelts. And bad luck. The final truth. Diana died because Henri Paul drove drunk at 105 kilometers per hour through a Paris tunnel while being pursued by photographers, and because she wasn't wearing a seatbelt, a single safety device, costing nothing, taking 1 second to fasten, would almost certainly have saved her life. Trevor Rees-Jones proved it. He sat in the worst seat, directly in front of the pillar. He survived because of 3 inches of nylon webbing. Some stories end. Legends don't. This is CLS.